On Tuesday, September 6th, 2022, our invocation will be provided by Laura Dean Wiley, member of the Epic Church. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father God, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to come together, whether we never agree, always agree, sometimes agree. Lord, just thank you for the opportunity that we have in America to voice our opinions, to be together, and to talk about the things that are important to us. Lord, I just want to thank you for coming off of one of the best weekends in Independence, Missouri. Just thank you for all the volunteers, the police, the fire, all those that put on Satacalagon to allow us an opportunity to let our city shine. And Lord, just thank you for keeping everyone safe over this weekend. Lord, I just want to thank you for those that have raised their hand and said, I'll serve, those that set up on the dais, those that serve on committees. And Lord, just thank you for every citizen represented here today. Lord, let them have a calm spirit, voice their concerns, and listen. It's in your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
Steinmeier.
Here.
Hobart.
Here.
Mayor Rowland.
Here. Thank you. Next we have citizens' request. We've got some items on the agenda that still are getting quite an amount of great interest, and we're glad for that. I just want to, if I may please, kind of give some guidelines to this. Please don't refer to anyone by name. Also, do not make any political statements. We're here to talk about policy. One of the things we'll talk about is health insurance policy, and we want to make sure that we stay on that policy. That is an important key. Also, I've gotten a lot of feedback about applause in this chamber, and this is a solemn gathering for business of our city. It is not a sporting event. It is not a rock concert, and we've had those for the last few days. This is a solemn gathering to do business. And so I respect everyone's opinion to be able to come up and give their thoughts and ideas. We have worked very, very hard with the Health Committee to make sure that they felt heard and that they were part of the process and the information was shared fairly. I believe that we have reached that, but I wanted to set those parameters for people to speak tonight. I think it's important you have the opportunity to speak. It is a democracy and everyone should have the opportunity to be heard. However, we also have to make sure that we follow decorum, and that decorum includes being respectful to people who have different opinions of ours, if we disagree with them or anything like that. So with that being said, we'll call citizens' requests going forward. And help me, that is, okay, very good, thank you. We do have one person who is not a citizen of Independence, and so in order to allow them to speak, we have to suspend the rules because the rules say that you have to be a citizen of Independence. So with that, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll make that. I would move to suspend the rules so out of Independent citizens can speak.
Very good.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. Thank you very much. Mr. Nesbitt, please come up and give your full name and also your address, please. Thank you.
Hello, Edward Butch Nesbitt, 3817 South Milton Drive. Let me see, as I understand it correctly, you guys were voted in by the people to be the eyes and ears for the people. That means that you got to look at a lot of stuff. Like tonight, there's over 800 pages, I know, on the docket. So you also got to listen to complaints, and that takes a lot of work for you guys to do. That's why you guys made subcommittees. The subcommittees do work to help look at all the projects for you, and so to help you look into things. So I sat on one of the subcommittees. These subcommittees help you look into the things so where your committee found our committee found a problem with something that we were trying to make a recommendation front of the staff to send you a letter to you guys so you could look at something, about how look at something. But somehow the city councilor got involved and said we couldn't do that, which I don't understand why that happened. And basically, I don't know which city councilor it is, because it seems like we got a lot of city councilors running around here. I mean, I see 2 or 3 at a time. So I don't know what the deal is there. The report came back to us, and we weren't able to send that report back to you guys. So, like I say, that doesn't make sense. Why, if we are a committee, that we cannot send a report to you guys to look into something? I don't understand that. But at this time, I'm not here for that. My subject is the problem with the Cargo Largo project. And it's off 35th and Nolan. Everybody sees the new building going up. It looks nice. Truck traffic there is going to increase over 200%. When cargo gets going, that means that there's going to be 200% of more trucks in there. But they didn't state on the traffic survey, is that going to be 1 truck, 2 trucks, 10 trucks, 100 trucks a day? Or is that going to be a week, a month, or a year? Because the report does not say that on the traffic report. So let's just do an example. They got 10 trucks coming in a day. So a 200% increase would be 20 trucks. So 20 plus 10 is 30 trucks. So now we got 30 trucks coming in and out of there today. So that would be roughly somewhere over 200 plus trucks a week, which comes out to be over 10,000 trucks a year going in and out of 35th and Nolan. Plus, that doesn't count the cars with trailers that are going to be coming in and out of there going to Cargo Largo. The turn from the eastbound lane, 35th Street, to the southbound Nolan Road has a problem with the radius not being big enough for trucks to turn on to Nolan Road. There's a signal sign there that already has marks from trucks that have hit it. This turn is called, the truckers call this a blind spot, because when they go to turn, they can't really see that area because where the truck is turned, because they turn pretty sharp when they go around that corner. Today I sat there and saw a truck turn with a pedestrian there, and the pedestrian had to move or they would have been hit. So that's one thing. We also know that there's a school close, and also there's a grocery store that's pretty nice that's close there. There is a crosswalk on the street to get there. So now we have kids crossing the street with a blind corner at that crossing signal. That is not a correct radius. So it is not if or when somebody's going to get injured or killed in this situation. Remember, we're increasing truck traffic 200% in this area.
You have 1 minute.
Well, I'm asking that I asked the planning department to look into this project. They looked into it and said that this was scheduled to be fixed in the 4th phase. Well, if I'm thinking right, the 1st phase is taking 3 to 4 years to do. So basically, we're going to say we're going to push this off 10 to 12 years before this gets fixed, when we got over 10,000 trucks a year turning that radius. So I looked into the Cargo Largo project incentives, and there was nothing about fixing this 35th Street Nolan Road intersection on the property. They were going to fix Nolan Road to 33rd Street. They're going to fix Weatherford Road, but there's nothing about 35th Street to Nolan Road. So this is why our committee was asking a letter to make a recommendation to this, look into the project of the traffic study and the problem with this intersection. So we need to look at the turn from Nolan Road to 35th. But also, we got to look.
I'm sorry, your time's expired.
Well, we need to look into this project and see what's going on.
Okay.
I mean, basically, somebody's going to get injured there.
All right, thank you. Next up is Bob Sorensen. Can you please state your name and your address, please? And if I can remind you, Mr. Sorensen, you've got 3 minutes because you spoke on this topic.
I don't think
before.
I'll. I don't think I'll need 3 minutes.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
My name's Bob Sorensen. I live at 800 Southwest Powell Drive, Oak Grove, Missouri. I'm the president of the Independence Loggers Retiree Group. I would like to start off by thanking Councilman Dan Hobart for making the motion at the last council meeting to form a committee to look into the Stay-Well health insurance. I would also like to thank the mayor and the rest of the council for supporting this motion. The committee met 5 times in the last 3 weeks with a lot of discussion. I would like to thank Councilman Jared Fears, City Manager Zach Walker, Stay-Well Committee Chairman Mike Veet, and Co-Chairman Cindy Culp for serving on this committee with me. The resolution you have before you this evening contains changes to the current Stay-Well plan that will hopefully benefit the plan through the 2023 calendar year. The plan was submitted by Mike Veet, and after a few modifications was agreed to by the whole committee. I would like to conclude by saying that I hope the city keeps this committee together and have them continue to meet. I believe that the plan has been helped by these changes, but I do not believe it's been fixed. If this group continues to work on this for the next 12 months, I honestly believe we can have a health care plan for active employees and pre-65 retirees that will work for many years. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jim Paulo. And Jim, could you please state your name and your address? Is Jim here? Hello, Jim. Yeah, she can give them out to us. Thank you. Thank you. And Jim, please state your name and your address, and you have 5 minutes, sir.
My name is Jim Paulo. I live at 2416 Lee Summit Road in Independence. This involves the zoning case 22-12509. It's the bill number tonight, 22-084. It's the zoning at for the villas at Windmill Fields. I oppose this zoning request. I hope you will take the time to view the video of the Planning Commission meeting concerning this request. What I have to say here will follow the video time-wise, and be easier to understand if you watch the video. There are many inaccurate or incorrect statements and PowerPoint pictures made during this meeting. To base your approval on this change on their recommendation could be a mistake that the city will have to live with. In viewing this meeting, you will see that city staff posts incorrect maps of the area in question, along with inaccurate renderings of the proposed buildings and parking spaces that were provided by the developer to staff. And these are a list of the things that I wanted to bring forward. To mitigate the extreme traffic volume that the traffic study said would occur here, city planners accept the proposal for traffic to cross the parking lot of Discount Tires to gain access to the traffic light at 23rd Street leading in and out of Hy-Vee. I sent you all an email over the last week, and as I said there, I'll say it again, I think that is a very bad idea. While asking about where parking would be provided since the renderings didn't show any, Commissioner Nesbitt said he couldn't read the PowerPoint picture. He would repeat 2 more times during this meeting that he couldn't see what was being displayed. I don't believe any of the commissioners could see the projected preliminary development plan. You certainly can't see it on the City 7 video. It is viewable on the agenda item cover sheet under attachments. The commissioner wants to know if there is a right-hand turn lane off of 23rd Street eastbound into their place as the traffic study suggested. Ashley Smith said it's already in the plan for the car wash, that it will be built. The development plan submitted that no one can see shows the car wash, but does not show a right-hand turn lane off of 23rd Street. Before I started my statements at the Planning Commission meeting, I had to convince staff that their PowerPoint map projection showing the area to be rezoned was incorrect. In response to the Commissioner's request about restricting the project to over 55 housing, Mr. McBee said that that requirement would be on the lease. Who guarantees this and who enforces that requirement? The commissioner asked Mr. McBee if an 18-year-old could live with grandma, and Mr. McBee said he couldn't discriminate against the 18-year-old if grandma was raising said child. But the Federal Housing for Older Persons Act of 1995 says the community can set age limits. That's the point of the act. If a community wants to advertise as over 55 living, it must set age restrictions. Otherwise, claiming to be over 55 living community becomes false advertising because all ages could live there. In discussion about traffic concerns, Mr. McBee says there are, and I'm trying to quote, actually 5 entrances now because we're adding 1, 2, 3, and 2 that you could use. Now the 5th would be if you cut through the parking lot to another stoplight.
You have 1 minute.
End of the quote. Ashley Smith agrees with him. I don't know what they're talking about. There is not another stoplight to gain access to or from Hy-Vee's parking lot. I wanted to ask questions about some of these inaccuracies, but the chair closed the public portion of the meeting knowing that the public had more questions. If you watch the video, which at times is difficult to follow, you will get a much more vivid idea of how disjointed the presentations and conversations were. I hope you will agree with me that a sound and wise decision cannot be made to approve this request based on the evidence presented at that meeting. I'll end this talk by quoting from the city's Comprehensive Plan 2040. The existing neighborhoods should be protected when new development is proposed in order to preserve the quality of life for existing residents. I hope you will deny this zoning change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paulo. Next is Mike Freeland. Mr. Freeland, please state your name and repeat your address, please.
Mike Freeland, 1226 East 25th Street South, Independence. Thank you, Mayor Rowland and Council, for taking time to listen to this. I know time's of the essence. I will just concur with a few things that Jim just said at the last meeting, because it's been a long time since I've been in front of the City Council. And so last time it was eye-opening to me as a citizen for 48 years of my life here in Independence, Truman graduate, that it was like the site plans were incorrect, and the city said, well, that's not the developer's fault, it was the city's fault. So I was watching that process. They're supposed to be going through and helping determine and giving the recommendation to the City Council, and they were looking at faulty plans, and they also even would admit multiple times that they were looking at the back board here and could not see it. So that was, to me, was a real eye-opener. And then the last thing is we still had questions, and they closed the questions. And it was like, that was very distraughting to me as a lifelong citizen here at Independence. But my main concern is I live at the closest property to the villas at Windmill Farms. And so I have had major water issues since I moved into the house in 1995. We've redone our driveway, we've done all kinds of things. I've got photos, but I also emailed them over today. I don't know if everybody got the email with the photos. Anybody not get the email? So this is something that I've been battling the city with, just asking for their help. In 1998, they sent a letter stating, hey, we know that there's a water problem. We need to fix it. Back then, Stuart Borders, Howard Penron, everyone just said, hey, vote for the street tax, vote for the sales tax, then we'll have money to fix everything. You're a young guy, let's get this done or whatever. Well, back then in 1998, it was going to be $15,000 to fix our street. And then I was emailing Mike Steinmeier, Councilman Steinmeier, at the beginning of this project saying, hey, we're getting more flooding now that the project is commencing. And he said, I asked him to show me proof that they were ever going to fix our street, and he actually sent me the capital improvement program, and I was shocked. Thank you, Mike Steinmeier, that it actually shows that we're actually listed as a consideration sometime maybe in the next 5 years at a cost of $470,000, and it said basically that we have a lack of storm drains and structural flooding of homes at 25th and Woodbury. So then it was definitely, I'm still on the fence on the project. It looks nice. It's a low visibility, but according to what I was interpreting, it says that they're going to not only build a retention pond, but tie into existing water drainage at 25th and Woodbury. We have no water drainage at 25th and Woodbury. Every time I email the city for 27 years when we've had a problem, they're like, well, look, it's a 500-year flood. Look, it's a 100-year flood. Look, it's a 50-year flood. This happens every time it rains, an inch in an hour, 2 inches in 2 hours. And so, I mean, I've even seen police officers drive through. It's not safe to drive through our street. Fortunately, we fixed all the problems to get water in our house. It gets close, but if there's any additional water added to this project, then I'm not just going to sit up here and say I'm a concerned citizen. I will take legal action against the engineer, the city, whatever, saying, hey, we got the flooding stopped, now our flooding's back. And we had massive flooding back in May. I emailed the councilman. He emailed the site managers, and they said that, hey, we didn't have the screen up. They put the screen up, but we had like a 4 or 5 foot river running through us. So I would just implore you to say, please fix the water issues at our street. And the Planning Commission tried to say, can we make this part of, and even I met with Rick Aurora, and he said, well, this project could pass, it could fail, it could even pass with conditions, so please don't just pass it, either fail it or pass it with the conditions that we're going to make this capital improvements happen to fix the water before there's more water issues on our street. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Next is Kenneth Tompkins. Kenneth, please come up and state your name and your address, please.
Thank you for your time, Major Rowland and the council. I much appreciate this opportunity to talk. I did have a couple issues here, and won't be 5 minutes, but it'll be short. First is the water issues that already been spoke about that floods our streets and homes. The city has been telling the residences in the neighborhood of 25th and Woodbury for over a quarter century that there is an issue with the storm drains that they are aware of. It's not a question of if there is existing water issues. It's a question or a statement that there is water issues. My house floods. My backyard floods. My basement floods. And this doesn't happen with a 10-year flood. Just 2 years ago in a bad rain, it flooded. I mean, it's a little sickening to me to have to keep going over the expense that I have to maintain to get black mold in my house because there's a drainage issue, and I've lived there for 35 years and no one's taken care of it. Now, this new development wants to take away the grass, dirt, farmland, and trees in favor of concrete parking lots, streets, roofs, and gutters. A holding area for the new development is critical, but is already a failure currently with not development, and these proposed changes have to take in account for failed drainage and pipes already. And I know this is going to exacerbate all issues in our neighborhood that I have witnessed as a resident for the last 35 years. Second is the concern for traffic. Yes, the water issues affect our homes, and that is important, very important. But fatalities on 23rd Street are a matter of life and death. I worry every time my wife goes to turn onto 23rd Street off Gudgel that she will be safe. 23rd has become the most fatalities and accidents of anywhere in Independence. A motorcyclist was just killed on 23rd and Pearl 15 days ago. Another fatality occurred at 23rd and Kings Highway, Christmas 2020. The 2 commercial properties that the McGee's are selling next to the McGee Car Wash have already been turned down by the city per Rick Aurora for most issues, including fast food or anything of traffic volume. 23rd is too overloaded by the city's account. The traffic study shows 1,000 plus cars will be added. This includes they're building 4 driveways into this place. 1 is an in, 3 is an out. So with Gudgel and 3 other roads that are out, that's 4 in and outs within 1/10 of a mile onto 23rd Street. That is way too much traffic to come and turn left all at the same time. It just is. According to city policy, this would require a stoplight. But the Planning Commission said that they would not pass this need for a stoplight because 78 Highway is not city operated. The Planning Commission and City Council recently turned down a senior housing proposal on Lee Summit Road across from the Glendale Elementary. That would have been a much better spot for senior housing than this proposed plan. If that project was turned down, I don't see how you can approve this location. Is this fair? I ask, what's fair? That this company can do what it wants and our houses and property can keep on flooding and nothing be done about it. So please ask yourself, what's fair? Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading the name of the person who would like to speak next, so I'll give the address. They live at 1407 Woodbury, and they want to talk about rezoning. And please state your name and your address.
Marilyn Manlingle, 1407 Woodbury.
That works now, Marilyn. I can see it now. Thank you very much. So please put your mic down. Thank you.
I don't think I need to say a lot more than what they've already said. I'm the house right next to Vreeland on the
Okay.
corner 4007 Woodbury and 25th Street on that corner, and the same problems. I don't need to spend a lot more time explaining what they've already said.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Robert Doyle. Mr. Doyle, please state your name and your address, please.
My name is Robert Doyle. I live at 1218 East 25th Street South. I, like several others here, have concerns about the water runoff and traffic concerning this villas windmill development that's going in on 23rd and Hayden. I know that the developer says that they have that problem covered, but what if at some point in the near future we have a 4 or 5 inch rain event and my rec room floods? Are they going to clean that up for me? I don't think so. And about traffic, traffic is going to be so much worse. It's going to affect traffic on 23rd Street, Lee Summit Road, and I believe it will also increase the traffic flow on Lee Summit Road, 25th Street, Keys Highway, and even westbound traffic going west on Gudgel to Nolan Road. I understand there's going to be 108 two-bedroom units, and the renters must be 55 or older. Maybe you can control the age of the renters, but you cannot control the age of the person or persons that move in with the renters. I would also like to know if there's any kind of a restriction on how many people can live in one unit. There's going to be 2 parking spaces per unit, but there's a good possibility that some of these units are going to require more than 2 because of more than 2 drivers living in one unit. Even if there's only 2 cars per unit, that's 216 cars. And many of these cars are going to be leaving about the same time 5 days a week to go to work. Going to be gridlock. There will be cars using the Hy-Vee Street with the traffic light to 23rd Street to be able to make a left turn onto 23rd Street. And there will be many cars going east across the Hy-Vee's parking lot to be able to access Lee Summit Road without having to deal with the traffic light on 23rd and Lee Summit Road. This could cause possibly more accidents in the parking lot and even possibly a pedestrian being hit. I have to believe that there is a better location in Independence for this development. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Next up, we have Mr. Love. Mr. Love, please come forward and please state your address, please. And you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Kenneth Love, 16808 East George Franklin Drive, Independence, Missouri, 64055. I'm here to speak about address 4023 South Nolan Road. What is this address? This address is the old Kmart building. There was a special court session held earlier this year, and the property was awarded to Royal Lawn Services, LLC of Independence. The reason this property was awarded was because of a mechanical lien for snow removal. Supposedly, the owner owed him a lot of money. My question to the mayor, council, city manager: why are the taxpayers going to pay for this demolition? Why isn't the new owner paying for this? If I was awarded this property on a tax abatement sale, as a new owner, it would be my responsibility to fix or demo the problems or whatever codes are on the property. Why isn't the new owner being held accountable to pay for this demolition? He knew when he went in front of this special court session, he knew what was wrong and what needed to be done. He knew what type of taxes were owed. He knew about asbestos. He knew about the roof caving in. Now you have asbestos that has been splattered all over concrete, all over the cinder blocks. That's going to take special people to come in and remove the asbestos. Well, what about the block? They've been exposed also. If we can come up as a city and pay for this demolition approximately, I don't know the number because the bids closed today at 5 o'clock. I don't know who was awarded the bid to tear this location down, but I'm estimating close to $1.52 million. We have retirees sitting in here. We have police officers on our street that need more money. We need more money to hire more police officers, better benefits programs. We have spoke about this with the money and benefits. If the city can come up with this type of money to tear a location down, my concern is when are we going to be paid back? What about taxes or interest? Who's going to be reliable for all this? The new owner? What happens if he can't come up with that money? Or has this already been a plan that's been resolved within the city of how to take over a property without eminent domain? This is the same property that I'm speaking about back in January and in February that our city, past mayor, past council, and present council heard me speak of. Eminent domain is a no way, no go. But now, is this another way around the eminent domain that the Royal Lawn Service cannot afford the demo? That's his responsibility. So the city's stepping up, taking his responsibility. If he cannot pay us, Is that property going to be given to us, the taxpayers?
You have 1 minute.
Or we're going to wait to see what type of an investment he's going to do there. Again, my main concern is the money. Retirees have benefits that need to be spoken for. We need more police officers on the street. The only way to get new police officers with better benefits, our council has said this in the past, we don't pay enough, and our benefits is not the package as it used to be. Thank you, sir. Thank you, council member, for listening to me.
Thank you. And that brings us to conclusion of citizens' comments. The next item on the agenda is the Employee of the Month. Madam City Clerk, please read the bill.
Bill number 22-800, a resolution recognizing Cindy Jones, Trouble Dispatcher with the Power and Light Department, as the Employee of the Month for September 2022.
Is she here?
She is. We need a motion for approval.
I move
Okay.
to approve.
We've got a motion for approval. Can we have a second?
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes.
Whereas the City Employee Recognition Program recognizes outstanding performance by employees of the City of Independence, and whereas an employee committee selects the Employee of the Month for exhibiting the qualities and ideals that best represent public service. Whereas the Employee Recognition Committee has selected Cindy Jones, Trouble Dispatcher with the Power and Light Department, as the Employee of the Month for September 2022.
Congratulations. Next on the agenda with a National Preparedness Month.
Whereas National Preparedness Month is a nationwide event held each September, and whereas the goal of National Preparedness Month is to increase awareness about the importance of preparing for disasters and to encourage individuals to take action. And whereas the City of Independence will not truly be prepared for a disaster until every individual, family, and business takes personal responsibility for being prepared. And whereas the City of Independence also officially recognizes the many volunteers involved with the Medical Reserve Corps, Greater Kansas City, the Community Emergency Response Team, the Disaster Animal Response Team, the Emergency Communications Service Group, and command staff volunteers who routinely offer their invaluable services to make our community safer. Now therefore, Rory R. Rowland, Mayor of the City of Independence, proclaims September 2022 as National Preparedness Month, and calls upon the people of the City of Independence to join their fellow residents across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance.
This brings us to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We've got a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Any discussion or anyone want to pull items for discussion? Anyone want to pull any items for discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. This brings us to public hearings. And this will be our first public hearing. And if you could please read the,
A public hearing on proposed property tax rates to be set by the City of Independence for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, based on the current assessed valuation by Jackson and Clay counties. Full public hearing.
Hi, Cindy Gray, CFO. I'm here to talk about the tax levy. So the tax levy is an annual process that is set every year for our property taxes that we pay. So taxpayers receive a bill in November that will reflect this new tax levy. So the Missouri tax levy forms calculate a ceiling based on assessed values, which are in accordance with the Hancock Amendment, which is implemented by the state in 1980. What it does is it helps to balance the windfalls of the economic situations that are in the marketplace. The annual calculation states that we are to remain neutral, except for growth where we can add it back in. That would be like for new construction type activities. There are the three levy parts are general operational levy, a parks levy, and then the debt levy. And then we here in Independence also have the Independence Square Special Business District levy. The city's budget was adopted by a city ordinance in June of 21-22, and in order for the county to levy those tax rates, the city must first certify that amount, which was needed for the city's budget. A notice of public hearing to hear citizens on the property tax was published August 25th, 2022, using the preliminary tax levy rates based on our prior year assessment, as we did not have the final numbers from Jackson County until just to August 31st. So the numbers that are in your packets now are the updated numbers that we did receive. Overall, the tax levy rate is actually decreasing by 0.0042 cents, which is just under a half cent. So to kind of put that into a perspective, a property of $100,000, this would equate to a decrease of $4.20. So we're pretty much staying level for this next year. The process to set the levy is to have this public hearing and then to adopt the ordinance and then submit it to the county clerks for Jackson County and for Clay County, of which we both have properties, and then the state auditor for certification. All of this has to be done by October 1st. So staff recommends that we approve this ordinance. Any questions?
questions or discussion? Hearing none, thank you very much, appreciate it. That will end our public hearing. Oh, full public hearing, so we have other folks that want to talk about this issue. Anyone else want to talk about property taxes and how it's assessed, anything like that? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Nesbitt?
Edward Nesbitt, 3817 South Milton Drive. Hey, I looked over that paper this week. And my question is why does the Independence Square get a discount on their taxes? If I'm reading that right, is that correct? And that's not right?
Mr. City Manager, can you address that?
I'll get with you, Mr. Nesbitt. I'm not quite sure.
Well, because it says they're going to pay like 0.058%, and we're going to pay like 0.06 to other businesses. That's why I'm trying to figure out why they get a $80,000 discount.
We can check on that. And
Would you check on that and let me know
Be
what's
happy
going on?
to,
Because
yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to figure that out. I couldn't figure out what that meant, so I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else want to come forward?
Kenneth Love, 16808 East George Franklin Drive, Independence, Missouri, 64055. When it comes to concern of taxes, especially personal property taxes, Jackson County has been sending out people that they hired door to door. They're only supposed to ask questions of how many bedrooms, how big is your garage, is this a rental, how much rent do you pay? That's nobody's business. That's between a landlord and the tenant, not Jackson County. So when it comes to these numbers, how do we know they're reflecting truthfully? Because the company that they hired to go around and do these assessments, if you backtrack and really look at their record, they have multi-million-dollar lawsuits against them. These were not Jackson County people that worked for Jackson County. They worked for another company that was hired to walk our streets. This type of assessment that goes upon the City of Independence, I think council, mayor, city manager, we might want to look at a different way to really do our own assessment so that we get our numbers correctly. It's only fair that we pay what we owe, not what somebody from another state or another business assumes. And the best example of assuming is a duplex on the south side of the street and a duplex on the north side of the street. If I own both duplexes, they're called duplexes. If I own two on the north side, it's called a duplex. But if I only own half on the south side, it's called a townhome. When it comes to taxes, there's a different rate when it comes to a townhome and a different value than a duplex. That's why I stepped up. I was thinking about speaking about this and I said no, but I stepped up and realized I think it's time independents have their own. That way we know what we have, not relying on other people. Because what happens is people start challenging their taxes. And it gets stacked up and stacked up and stacked up down Jackson County. Some, and I witnessed this personally myself during the pandemic of COVID. For some reason, Jackson County was scared to come to the City of Independence. So everybody was being forced to go downtown Kansas City over tax abatements or challenging your taxes. I just think it's another way for the City of Independence to really step up instead of depending on somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else discuss this issue? Going once, going twice. That'll close the public hearing. Madam City Clerk, can you please read the bill?
Bill number 22-078, an ordinance levying a tax on all real property subject to taxation on January 1, 2022 within the corporate limits of the City of Independence, Missouri for general revenue and public health and recreation purposes and for the Independence Square Special Business Benefit District, said levies and assessments being separate and distinct, all for the fiscal year commencing on the first day of July 2022 and ending on the 30th day of June 2023.
Thank you. That brings the non-ordinance items. Okay. And that now brings us to non-ordinance items.
Bill number 22-771, a resolution affirming the City Council's adherence to certain provisions of the city's personnel policies and procedures, as well as certain administrative policies of the City of Independence.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone like to discuss this? Any questions, comments, concerns?
Mr. Mayor,
Proceed.
as you and I actually spoke with the city councilor about this about a month ago, and we had asked him to come up with something different to make sure it complied with the city charter. I had emailed the city councilor last week, and he advised that he hadn't quite got it done yet, and that he would have something by the next meeting. As maybe an alternative that goes more in line with the city charter. So I would actually ask for another postponement until the next meeting on this.
So you'd like to postpone
I'd
it?
second that motion.
There's a motion and a second to postpone it till the next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Councilmember. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on postponing it?
Just a question, that would be, does that, and maybe this question, Mr. Cover, does that give you time enough to do what you need to do?
Yeah, it's just about there. I just didn't have it quite wrapped up in time to get it on to everyone on the agenda for this time. So if we can push it out to September 20th, that would be good, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, please take the roll on the motion to postpone it to September 20th.
I believe it'd be September 19th.
19th? Okay.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. Thank you. Please read the next bill, please.
Bill number 22-799, a resolution authorizing the city manager to implement recommended changes to the city's self-funded health insurance plan.
Mr. Mayor,
Proceed.
I'd like to move to postpone this indefinitely.
Second.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second to postpone this indefinitely. Any discussion or clarification?
Just that we'll deal with this on the next one. the next
Okay.
item.
And everybody is good with this? I mean, from the committee standpoint?
Yes.
All right. Very good. We've got a motion and a second to postpone this. You're also going to do this on, you're going to postpone this one indefinitely, is what I'm hearing you say. Okay. There's a motion and a second to postpone this indefinitely. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
Yes. Thank you.
Bill number 22-804, a resolution authorizing and directing the city manager to implement recommended changes to the city's self-funded health insurance plan.
Mr. Mayor,
Proceed.
move approval of this item.
There's a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. We don't need a motion to approve it, so that's okay.
All right, good. Well, can I speak to this?
Absolutely. Proceed.
All right, thank you. As has been shared by Mr. Sorensen, the committee that was set up at our last council meeting has, between then and now, met 5 times. And we had, I just want to share with the public and those that are concerned that we had good discussions. We had a collegial relationship and discussions on these matters, and just want to share with the rest of the council some of the things that we came up with as a result of this. Number one, we are going to accept the pharmacy benefit that was submitted by Cigna. We estimate that's going to save somewhere around $479,000 for the plan. We are recommending to add a new base plan, which would be in addition to the other 3 plans that are currently offered. We're calling that the base plan for a lack of any other better term, I guess. We are suggesting that we change the HSA contributions that are made annually to the HSAs under Plan OAP2 and the Local Plus plan, that those would be made quarterly rather than annually. That in and of itself have other institutions have seen a decrease just by that change of about 7% of the cost of that. So that's we feel like that's a good move. We are recommending to change the policy so that benefits for additional spouses that come into play after someone retires would not be covered. So, for example, if I was covered and my wife died, or let's put it this way: if I was covered, if I died, my wife remarried, she was on the plan, her new husband would not be able to be covered under the plan. That's just there has been cases where that's happened in the past, not recently, but that was a concern that that was lifted up, and we wanted to address that. So it was just a little bit of a strange nuance that we thought we just wanted to clarify, and we agreed on that. We also are adding to the client-specific network, which utilizes the university health clinic, or the health clinics at the 2 Hy-Vee stores. We want to add a university health clinic that's at 606 South Hardy Avenue, right here in Independence, and so that will be available to us. And then finally, we're making a number of changes to the different plans, changing deductibles, out-of-pocket costs, and other kinds of plan changes that way. These would be the most significant changes that would be available. Our consultant has indicated to us that the 3 ways that we can save money in our plan is with a plan offering, a plan design, and and save money to the city, would be to save those changes, and also contributions, increasing contributions or changing the percentage of contributions. We're having some normal increases, what we would consider normal increases to premiums. That would be part of this plan, but we are also kind of holding out on the fact that we don't know exactly how many folks might move from the OAP1 plan to OAP2, which would be a significant savings to the plan as a whole. And depending on how much savings that generates, then we might see, enough savings to help us for the next 2 to 3 years. But we don't know that. So what our plan is to approve these changes, and then to meet again December 20th after open enrollment, so we can then see what the results of open enrollment are and what changes what additional changes might be needed. Hopefully none. Hopefully we think this will have a significant effect to put the Stay Well plan on good financial footing, but it's just not possible to calculate the exact financial benefit to a plan like this due to the migration to different plans. So we hope to meet again then in December and review that. With that, I think I'll stop talking, and if there are any questions, I'll try to answer those. But that's my report as chairperson of that committee.
Okay. Any discussion or
Mr. Mayor,
proceed?
does it be acceptable to have Mr. Veek come up and just give us, he is involved in Stay Well, just want to hear from him that he's satisfied with the negotiations, what we came up with. Is it something that anything that we need to hear, we need to be concerned about? I know it's only for a year. Do we have a plan moving forward that everyone's agreed upon? I just wondered if that's acceptable to have him come up and talk to us.
You can if you want, Mike, or
Yeah.
So
up to you.
We have a consensus up here. Mr. V, come on up and just give us your,
Yeah, come on.
but you've only got 13 seconds.
I won't make any jokes. We'll leave that. I'll concur with what Mr. Fierce said as far as the work on the committee, and those are the changes that were recommended. Those are the changes that I initially brought with a few tweaks, like Mr. Fierce said. Some other things to keep in consideration as we move forward. Stay Well Committee took action several months ago. There's 2 outstanding audits that we're still waiting to hear back on. One of those is a dependent claims audit. What that does is it goes back and look at everybody on our plan to make sure that the individuals that are on our plan, the members that are on our plan, are allowed to be on that plan. What we found in the past doing these dependent claims audits is that we can have savings in the neighborhood of anywhere between $275,000 to about $500,000. That's on top of the surplus that's predicted with the changes that we have already that you guys are about to vote on.
Other one too that we're looking at, that audit is out, is a medical claims audit to go back and make sure that Cigna has paid those claims and coded them appropriately. So we're hopeful to have those audits back by the end of the year when the ad hoc committee reconvenes so that we can look at that and we'll have a better understanding. When we sat down and created our goals at our very first meeting, it was determined that we needed $4 million to come up with for our renewal for 2023. We came up that, we stayed within budget, and at the same time, if everything goes and nothing changes as far as the membership, we'll see a surplus of about $600,000 for next year. As we continue to move forward, and after we get done with open enrollment, we'll be able to see those open enrollment numbers, and we're hopeful that depending on the migration between the different plans, that we'll see a higher cost savings from that shift. So that'll put us in line for what we need to do long-term and give us an idea of what our actual goal needs to be at that time. It was recommended out of the committee that the Staywell Committee go back and start looking at scenario contributions. We have some ideas we're going to work with Cigna and CBIZ on in the coming months. Hopefully we'll be able to have that committee recommendation to take back to the city manager and the ad hoc committee in December. So that's where we're at this time.
Just a question. I mean, you were able to, in a short period of time, come up with a Band-Aid solution for a year. So when we start meeting back in December, what will be our long-term goals to give some assurances to the employees and the retirees regarding health care? Are we going to try to get something 2 years, 3 years? What are we planning to do? Because just doing one-year Band-Aid approaches is not, I think, bringing peace of mind to anyone.
I agree with you 100%. A Band-Aid solution for 1 year is not sustainable for the city, and it's definitely not sustainable for the employees. We have to find a solution that's going to last long term. And by doing that, we have to fix the funding issue. But when you look at the funding issue and what drives that funding and what drives those renewal costs are our medical claims. So to go back on the history a little bit, when we had our own clinic, we were kind of able to steer some of those claims. We were able to steer away from a doctor's visit, an urgent care visit, or even an emergency room visit or hospitalization. Well, we're even able to steer away from even more were the rehospitalizations that cost so much money. That's where our planned spend is. That's what causes us the most problem. So if we take our members and we put them on a better health course and a wellness course for the future, then we start to eliminate this. One thing I'll reiterate on Mr. Fears when he talked about the health clinic, the way that facility is set up, it's set up as a doctor's office. They have doctors, nurse practitioners, they have an urgent care facility in there. They also have health coaches, and they have a diabetes coach. So all of you know diabetes is a huge problem. It's a huge problem on our plan because of the spin that it causes. So if we can help people and give them the tools to help themselves stay healthy, then it benefits everybody in the long run. We saw that with our original clinic. There were some tweaks that needed to be made to that. There was some overhead cost involved with that. We're thankful for this Cigna-specific network or client-specific network through Cigna, that this is a cost-neutral option for us now that we have the Hy-Vee clinics. We will keep our Hy-Vee clinics, but we'll also have this other option here in the city located for our employees and members.
Mr. Mayor? Just to be clear, so we think, the committee thinks that we did much more than just a Band-Aid approach. We believe that this will be a good step towards a multi-year solution. We just don't know how much of that solution we will have accomplished until after open enrollment. So we believe this is much more than a Band-Aid approach, just to be clear.
Any other discussions or questions?
Well, I'm going to ask again, ideally, what kind of agreement are we looking at? I don't know, but I think everyone needs to know that what we're going to be asking for for a long-term solution, because I do believe 1 year is a Band-Aid. And that, I mean, it took us a long time with an extension to get to this place. So we were obviously had our backs up against the wall. So I'm going to disagree a little bit with my colleague, but I'm more concerned about where do we go from here and what is the expectations in terms of our long-term peace of mind for retirees and current employees. Ideally, in an ideal world,
in an ideal world, we have the funding that provides for this, but at the same time, we have to make sure that our membership is healthy. By doing that, that's how we steer our medical cost. So when we have the data and we're able to see with the way this clinic runs and how it helps the entire fund, and by when I say the entire fund, I mean the city and the members, because everybody's vested in this just as much. So we're hopeful now that we've got our head back above water that we're not constantly treading water like we have been in the last 3 years with this health insurance plan. We're going to have to continue to make little tweaks along the way because of the ever rising costs in healthcare. If we can figure out the rising cost of healthcare, we're all going to be filthy rich. But
Mr. Mayor, Mike, do you mind if I jump in here? We're kind of putting Mike in a bad spot here. The city manager, per the charter, submits the budget each year and makes recommendation. Mike chairs a committee that makes recommendations to the city manager. So ultimately, I'll be accountable for answering Councilmember Steinmeier's question. So I don't want you to have the hot poker pointed at you.
Yep. Okay. Any other comments or questions? All
I'm
right.
sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to put you into the heat as a fireman. Sorry about that, okay? So I'll look forward to hearing that discussion, what long-term, what we're looking at. Thank you.
thank you for your concern, Councilman Steinmeier.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Perfect. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Proceed.
briefly, I wanted to thank all the members of that committee, Councilmember Fears, City Manager Zach Walker, firefighter, is it Captain? It's Captain Veet, and Cindy Culp, who is the member of Loggers and also on the Staywell Committee, and Bob Sorensen, president of the Loggers Organization. These folks came together to solve what felt like a volcano erupting, and they did it in short order. They did it by changing their lives and changing their schedules for several weeks. They did it under a tight time deadline, and from all accounts, they did it professionally, courteously, and with a significant amount of trust involved. Now, we don't normally see the city gain trust from employees or retirees. This has been a problem for us historically. I am incredibly proud, and it makes me very hopeful that this can serve as a model for going forward for some of the things that used to be vicious fights with each other, that maybe from time to time we can put our heads together in search of a common goal and find a good compromise that serves everybody the best that it can. I am genuinely thankful, and I'm happy that folks will be able to choose health insurance and rest easier now that a solution of sorts has been found. I appreciate Councilmember Fear's willingness to continue the work, to get through open enrollment, to adjust or make a new plan with the same folks, and their dedication to the city. All the folks on this committee can't be undervalued. So, thank you very much.
Anyone else, other comments, questions, concerns? Well, I too want to thank the committee for reaching out. I know they had robust discussions, and it's sometimes, but it was always polite, professional, and productive is what I hear, and that's what we want to work for here, is how to be polite, professional, and productive and get that done. That's the mantra. I know a lot of people have worked very, very hard on it, and I just want to thank all members of the committee for their hard work. I want to thank you, council member, for leading the discussion in a very polite, professional, and productive way, and that's what we want to do going forward. When we pass this resolution, and I'm surprised the resolutions have not been passed in the past on this issue, when we passed this resolution, it was clearly in my mind that this would be an ongoing concern. I didn't ever think that this would be something that we'd stop. Was that your approach to it? I mean, it was something we're going to continue to do. So I'm surprised anybody would even question that we would not have this going forward. We're going to continue to work with the committee, making sure that we listen to folks. I think one of the keys of leadership is listening to things you don't want to hear. And it's important that a number of you came to us and said, hey, this is an issue, how do we work through it? And we've got to have that discussion. And so we will certainly keep to work forward. And as long as I serve on this council, we'll continue that discussion. My belief always in a leadership role is to listen first. And I hope, and in demonstrating with working with the folks that I met with, that was the goal. And I just want to thank the committee for all the work they did. They did an outstanding job. We came to a spot where it's remarkable, in my mind, to see where we were at, was that a month ago? 3 weeks ago, because we had the extra Monday in there, to see where we're at today. And I just want to say, and that's all from the committee's work. You just did a great, great job with that, and I just want to say thank you for that to get to this point. That's what we want to do, is find solutions that we all can live with the strengths of the budget that we have. So I just want to say thank you very much. Anyone else? With that, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland?
A very hearty yes. Thank you. And that will bring us to second readings. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 22-074, an ordinance to approve amendments to the electric service rules and regulations, second and final reading.
Okay. Any discussion?
Mayor?
Please proceed.
I spoke with Mr. Nail today and just asked him if there was any restraints of time to pass this. I asked that because of the discussion and their study session, some answers, some not. I've had 3 members of the PUAB came and asked if there's any way that we could bring it back to them now that they have a little better understanding. A lot of them were just confused by the detail and how it would affect the ratepayers, and we wanted to make sure that ratepayers understand that these changes have some effect on them, and even home builders in our community. So if there was a way that we could bring this back to PUAB, Mr. Nail was very insightful. I think it would be very good for him to have a conversation with PUAB members and answer any questions that they now have regarding some of these changes. So I'm going to ask council to consider postponing this and sending it back to PUAB one more time to allow them to have the discussion on behalf of the ratepayers that they represent, please.
Any discussion on that? And that's a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second to postpone it and send it back to the PUAB. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Please proceed.
So we, it's on. We postponed this once, sent it to a study session. We had a study session on it. We had quite a bit of discussion on it at that time. I feel like I'm ready to proceed, and so I'm ready to move forward. So I'll be voting no on the motion to postpone.
Okay. Anyone else? Other discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Please proceed.
I agree with Councilmember Fears.
Okay.
Mayor,
Please proceed.
again, this came to us with no discussion at PUAB. They passed it. They weren't sure what they passed. They had 72 hours to read 50-some page document. That was a little excessive and a little tough to understand. Now, if you're going to say no, you don't believe ratepayers should have an opportunity to hear what these changes are and how it affects them, vote no. I'm going to stand with the ratepayers of this city, and I'm going to let them hear and have an opportunity to have PUAB address these issues and these changes, and let Mr. Nell bring clarity where there's confusion. And I think that's the right thing to do. That's how we're supposed to represent not just the people of our district, but the ratepayers of this city.
Okay.
So I'm going to just ask that you reconsider your no votes and stand with the ratepayers.
Mr. Neal, can you come up and just answer a couple questions, please? Thank you. All right, Mr. Walker, stand on the batter, stand at, you never know, get warmed up in the bin here. All right.
Jim Nail, IPL Director. Good evening, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Nail, coming up for doing this. So what's the dollar amount that we're talking about here? for this one particular item that is concerned?
Well, the meter boxes that we propose to stop providing, the dollar amount for the actual boxes themselves, an average of about $35,000 a year. There are other costs associated with that. We have an employee who, instead of doing otherwise productive jobs, we have an employee that actually drives around town and delivers these, again, at no cost. So that would be, someone argued, well, you pay him anyway, but he would be able to do actual lineman tasks, not drive around delivering boxes. So we estimate about $100,000 between the boxes and the temporary hookups, about $100,000 in savings to IPL.
And this is typically a contractor would install this, is, you know, you don't have the homeowner doing this in the back of their house.
Correct. We would drop off the box and their electrical contractor would install it.
Okay. And so how many businesses and how many consumers do we have hooked up to the electrical system?
We've got 59,000 accounts.
So we've got 59,000 accounts. So really, for each one of those accounts, from a representation standpoint, we're talking maybe $2 a year on this issue per account holder.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I realize $2 is important, but it's not critical. It's not material to the financial health of the IPL.
The reason we started with this, we are looking at every aspect of our business and trying to do it in the most efficient, effective manner possible. It's been noted that IPL continues to lose money. We are, and granted, this is a small piece, but we're taking every step we can to try to turn that around. This is one of those steps.
And what's IPL projected to lose this year, if I may ask?
I don't have an answer on that yet. We had a report of $3 million. We also had a report of $9 million, and was told that there's a lot of moving parts that won't be resolved until all the final fiscal year audits are complete. So I would say between 3 and 9.
Okay. So 100,000 in comparison to what we're going to lose is?
It's a small amount, but it's a step in the right direction.
Right. And you're also saying that this is a typical process that, you know, all utilities are going to as far as how they have a best practice.
Several of the contractors that we talked to said they were surprised we were still providing it. We're one of the few that still does.
Because most cities don't do this.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. Anybody else have any other further questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Please proceed.
when you have to get one of these meter sockets for a customer, do you go buy them then, or do you keep some in stock, or how does that work?
Well, we maintain an inventory of
So,
parts.
I mean, how much do you have right now? Do you have any idea? What kind of inventory do you have now?
I don't. I would have to get back to you on that. We keep our inventory process. We don't have $35,000 on hand. $35,000 is an estimate of what we think we might have to spend across the year. Our warehouse superintendent maintains minimum levels of stock based on historic usage, and as we use and get to those levels, then he would reorder to supplement that. What we actually have on hand at any one time, I'll have to get back to you on that, Council.
So what are we going to do with if this passes, what are we going to do with what we have in stock?
We've not, I mean, we would have some implementation period. My expectation is we would use up what we've got and we would stop replenishing them at that point.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Might we be able to return some of those?
That's a possibility. We could check with the supply house, see if we could get credit back on some of those. We buy them from a lot of our normal electrical parts distributors, and that might be something we could arrange.
Mr. Neal?
Yes, sir.
In the permit process, is there a charge that the homeowner, if they're having work done, where they have to remove the box or move the box, the socket box, is there a charge on that permit process? In other words, there a box that's charged and there's X amount of dollars on it as well?
There's a nominal permit fee. I'm not sure I don't know what the permit fee is. That's also something we want to look at going forward, is all of our fee structures. But it would not, there's not a different fee depending on whether they have to put this box in or that box in.
Right. I was under the impression that part of the permit process, there's like, I don't know if it's like $57 or something, and that included the socket box.
It does not include the socket. It's for the inspection and the review and the staff time in order to process
So if homeowners have to go out and they go to a box store and they get something that doesn't match up in the current holes and it's got to be moved, or if it's not something that's on the list that you'll be providing to them as far as approved soccer boxes, is there liability associated to that? And anyway, who owns what's going on inside that box once that meter is placed in there?
The line of demarcation between us and the homeowner is where the meter plugs in. So
Right.
the box is theirs.
But once that meter sits in that box, we own it,
The meter, not the box.
and anything that goes wrong internally with that, correct?
No, sir, that would still be the homeowner's responsibility, but they can't touch it until we remove the meter.
Yeah, so.
No one can break that seal except IPL personnel.
Exactly. So we want to make sure that whatever meter boxes that we're doing the work on is approved.
We will provide a list of approved designs, approved components to all the electric supply houses in the area, the licensed contractors. It'll be available at the desk when they apply for a permit. So yes, we will provide that. And at the time we come out to inspect, if it's the wrong box, they're not getting a meter.
That's okay. And these are the things, this is why I think they need to have that discussion so that the homeowners understand that. Thank you.
One further question, if I may ask. Have members of the PUAB come to you and said they were concerned about this issue and they wanted to readdress it, or is that that may be an unfair question?
No, sir, they haven't. At the July meeting was where they endorsed the changes that we recommended. At the August meeting, I did inform them of the council's decision to delay and the concern that there had not been sufficient time to review it, and no member asked to reconsider that endorsement.
Even the newest member that's been appointed to the committee?
Correct.
Okay. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
so what was the rationale for actually giving them out to begin with?
That's before my time. I don't know. It's been a practice, it's been in
Guess-
place for a while.
Can't even take an educated guess why it would be?
I would just say probably a value-added service that that IPL provided at the time. It's no longer cost-effective in our opinion.
So why didn't we ever just charge them back, the customer back for it?
Again, those are decisions that are well beyond me. I don't know what the history of that is.
But theoretically, could we do that? I mean, could we still issue them and then just charge the customer for them?
That is a possibility. We could build in a charge based on the cost of the boxes.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else? Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
We have a lineman delivering metal boxes to construction projects.
Yes, sir, we do.
I agree with you. It's time for us not to do that anymore. Thank you.
Yep. And I just want to finish with this. I too care much about the ratepayers, but this is not a material difference for any ratepayer in the city. We're talking less than $2 per ratepayer for the entire city. So with that being said, I too am going to vote no, and we're going to proceed with your recommendations we've made. Do I care about the ratepayers? Yes. But when we're talking about losing $3 to $9 million in a year, and we're talking here and spending this much time talking about $35,000, I think our time could be much better spent moving on, talking about how do we make IPL profitable, how to make it an ongoing and sustainable business, and not talking about meter boxes. With that, Madam City Clerk, I'll ask for the roll.
Councilmember Spheres?
No.
Perkins?
No.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
No.
Mayor Rowland?
No. And that brings us to, yep. Can you go ahead?
Any additional discussion on 22074?
Okay, thanks. No other further discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the
I
roll.
do have one more thing I want to say.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't think it's an inordinate amount of time to spend on it. We have supply chain issues that Mr. Nell didn't address. We don't know what the lead time for boxes for our residents, whether they're going to a box store or if we're buying them from IPL. These are delays that are not being talked about, calculated. These are things that are real-world problems right now, and we don't know when they're going to get better. And so I think that we just need to be responsible and make sure that our ratepayers and IPL's profitable, obviously, but we have big issues outside of money at IPL in terms of supply chain issues that our residents and our ratepayers need to be aware of. So with that, go ahead and proceed with the vote.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
No.
Steinmeier,
No.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. Go ahead.
Bill number 22-076, an ordinance authorizing issuance of a purchase order to Gulf States Distributors for the Police Department's annual ammunition order of $122,835, authorizing future change orders not to exceed $2,000, and appropriating $66,450 from the Police Department's use tax fund balance to partially fund this purchase. Second and final reading.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes.
Bill number 22-077, an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the City Code, alcoholic beverages, second and final reading.
Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Please proceed.
briefly, Mr. Walker, from reading the item, my understanding that this is just an update and a compilation of all the changes that have been made to our liquor law, is that right?
That is correct, and there are some state statutes that have changed that will, our city code will now be in conformance with those as well.
Just wanted to confirm that, thank you.
You're correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? Anyone else? Hearing none. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Spheres?
Yes.
Perkins?
I stepped out.
Stewart?
Yes.
Steinmeier?
Yes.
Hobart?
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. And that brings us to first readings.
Bill number 22-079, an ordinance repealing Article 1 of Chapter 4 Property Maintenance Code and adding a new Article 1 of Chapter 4 Property Maintenance Code of the City Code and making other necessary revisions. Bill number 22-080, an ordinance amending Section 12.09.008, abatement of the Independent City Code. Bill number 22-081, an ordinance amending Section 18.25.002, authority to impound abandoned property of the Independent City Code. Bill number 22-082, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District R12 two-family residential to District C2 general commercial for the property at 1711 East 23rd Street South, 1507 East 23rd Street South in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 22-083, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District R12 single-family residential to District R18 PUD medium-density residential planned unit development and approving a preliminary development plan for the property at 8718, 8718 and a half, 8720, 8720 and a half East US 24 Highway in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 22-084, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District R6 single-family residential to District R18 PUD moderate density residential planned unit development and approving a preliminary development plan for the property at 2350 South Hayden Street, 1250 South Hayden Street in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 22-085, an ordinance approving a special use permit to operate automotive sales at 9304 East US 40 Highway in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 22-086, an ordinance approving a special use permit to operate a tunnel car wash at 4121 South Little Blue Parkway in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 22-087, an ordinance approving a preliminary development plan for the property at 810 East Walnut in District R18 PUD medium density residential planned unit development in Independence, Missouri. Bill number 22-088, an ordinance vacating an existing water main easement of all that part of 505 North Dodging Avenue, lying in, on, and across Lot 7, except the south 9 feet of Hawkins Smith Land, a subdivision in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri.
Okay. Thank you very much. And that brings us to councilmember comments. Councilmember Stewart, I'll start with you and go right down the line.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, so one of the citizen speakers earlier spoke about the old Kmart building, and he brought us some interesting points. So have we sent out a bid to demolish that?
We posted that, yes. So city code lays out the process for dangerous buildings. Once we reach the point where the property owner proves non-responsive and won't make corrections to the property, then we advertise to get bids for demolition.
So was the old property owner that was non-responsive under what we did, or is it the new property owner?
It was both, though we have now since spoken with the new property owner.
Okay. Did they give you what their intentions were going to be with the property by any chance?
They have not. They have not formally, they've not shared a development plan or anything like that with us as of yet.
Do we have any, about what kind of money the bids came in at? Did it actually close today, or do we have any idea yet?
No, I'm not sure if the bids were unsealed this afternoon or not.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Perkins?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Fears?
Couple things. First of all, certainly enjoyed Santa Caligon event. It was, I hadn't been there since the Lions Club I'm involved with quit their participation several years ago, and I hadn't been back until Friday night, so enjoyed that. And so much that I went back with my grandson on Saturday. So, regarding the Stay Well Committee, subcommittee that we participate with, I just wanted to again thank those that participated. It was a very compressed, tight time frame. They spent a lot of time and energy and effort in doing that, and it was, very well. I think we had very good discussions, and it was I think it went as good as I thought it possibly could. So I really felt good about that. And then lastly, would ask city manager regarding the bill 22084. As I reviewed some of that material on that property 1250, on Hayden, 2350 South Hayden, I had some of the similar concerns as what the speakers earlier said. I could not read the maps in a way to be able to understand where the inflows and outflows from those from the proposed property was. I'm going to need, before I can vote for that, I'm going to need a better understanding of that. I'd like to get an understanding of how we can make sure that the property is restricted to those age 55 and older, not just saying that and expecting that on the landlord to take care of it, but to actually be able to make that happen for the long term. And then certainly we need to figure out what we can do and what we can require of the developer relative to the water issues. Because I live fairly close to there, travel that road regularly, and have seen water in that area on numerous occasions. It is a problem, and this would only complicate that. So, in my opinion, so I would appreciate before we get ready to vote on that next time, if we could address some of those concerns, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll work with my staff to get information pulled together for you and your colleagues and get that distributed well in advance of the meeting.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Steinmeier?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Enjoyed Santa Caligon. This is the first time I've been in some time. It's good to see our city on display, some of the better things that we do. When we polish up the city and we make it shine and people come out supportive. It's disappointing to me that in 2019, when the NFL announced the draft and I started talking about it, it fell on deaf ears. There's going to be a lot of traffic and a lot of money spent, and this is a city who wants their share of revenue too. And we've done nothing to be an overflow or to attract, to work with the NFL, and I'm disappointed in that because a lot of people came to Independence to look at our city. I hope we don't make the same mistake with the World Cup, and that'll be here before you know it. But there are things we need to start talking about in this city to grow our city's revenue base. And if all we're talking about is just changing how we do business and never getting to the real business at hand, we're going to find ourselves behind the 8 ball. And I'm hoping that this council will take a sincere approach to going after the revenue that's owed to this city. And I'm going to keep saying it. It's in my district. Crackerneck Creek Development is up to about $90 million that they owe this city. We have TIF money sitting out there. When are we going to get serious about going after the money that we need? If we're going to grow our city, we have to have revenue. We keep voting things in, but we're not talking about how we improve streets, traffic, how we are going to put more burden on public safety, our firefighters, our police. We have 2 fire stations. One, Station 5 is falling in a creek. We heard that 2 years ago. We've not talked about it. Station 8, smallest station in our city. Outside of the fact it's pretty historic and pretty cool to go in and look at, we've got to start talking about how we grow with the development that's coming to our city and how we protect that development and that capital investment that they're coming and bringing. So I'm hoping that we're going to start going after the business of dealing with some of these issues that have been on the plate on our dais here for since I've been here. And we talk about it, but we don't get to it. We're going to have a real revenue problem in our city. Mr. Walker he's got a lot on his plate, and he's trying to figure out revenue. We have revenue sitting out there that's owed to us. We need to figure out a way to go get it. And I'm all for that. I'm hoping that we're going to take an aggressive approach to it. And just let me say that I was proud of our city, and once again, with Santa Calagon, I know what this city is. I've been here since 1962. So my hope is that we'll start taking a proactive response to taking advantage of the opportunities that are coming our way and being more responsive to the areas of business that we need to start taking care of. So with that, that's all I have tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Homework.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to echo the comments about Santa Calagon. From serving as an ambassador on Saturday afternoon, Ms. Laurie Dean Wiley mentioned this in her prayer tonight, but it was well attended. The weather was fantastic. We got lucky on every front. They set or came close to set records for revenue and attendance. A number of vendors had their best year, best day ever with some of their businesses. They've been coming for decades. So this is to thank Tom Lesnick at the chamber, the board members, the hundreds, if not into 1,000 volunteers that went into that. The trash pickup was outstanding. The cleanup appears to be outstanding, and nobody's heard any complaints yet. There may be some. Just from start to finish, it was fantastic, and the police even managed to stop all the shootings. Chief, thank you. Except for apparently a soccer mom that had a pop, got excited, and had a shot up in the air, I guess. But no shooting at anybody, no unpredictable violence. Police presence was constant, but not oppressive. All the vendors, all the folks I talked to, very thankful, very proud of IPD. So big, giant shout out to everybody that was involved in that. And I especially want to thank Councilmember Stewart, who became pretty involved in some of the security measures at the carnival, and working with the chamber came up with some good changes that, from all accounts, what I heard, helped immensely in cleaning that up. So thank you for that, Councilmember Stewart. The Kmart building, real quick, Mr. Walker, which I like to call the Venture Building, since I've been here since 1972. We're not paying for the demolition, is that correct?
We have not reached the point of demolishing the building right now. So just a couple things on this property. Eminent domain is a tool that only the city council can use. You would have to vote on that. You would have to decide. There would be a process that would play out through Jackson County courts. There's zero opportunity for there to be a sneak job on this thing. So let's be clear about that.
Right.
Number two, the property owner, and I'm not sure how this could be a surprise to anyone, was in arrears for a number of things, including their snow removal and lawn mowing bill. I don't know the exact mechanics. I do not work for Jackson County, but somehow in being in arrears was able to take title to the property. Regardless of that, the city has codes, and if we want to rescind those and not enforce them, that's an option. But we have codes for dangerous buildings that we are, as a staff, are following, and that led us to the point of proceeding with a notice to demolish and going out to get bids. That is where we are at today, no further than that. We would have to evaluate the bids, we would have to see if they're responsive, we would have to determine if we can afford it. We have a long way to go on this. Just because we bid it does not mean we will proceed with demolition at this point in time.
Understood. And I thank you very much for that, Mr. Walker. I further comment, you know, it's one thing to say that we've done nothing to prepare for upcoming big events, but frankly, we tried to eminent domain this property months ago, and several members of the council sitting up here with me voted not to do that. Now, there's a chance, whatever that chance is, I have no idea that somebody will buy that property and build a hotel. And if they do that, that will be done before the World Cup. So to say that and complain that we've done nothing to prepare for that, when what we tried to do was eminent domain and tear down a dangerous building, is disingenuous in my opinion. I want to mention one thing regarding the firefighters. First of all, we love you, of course. But last fall, we passed a tax that is going to increase, at least to some degree, your ability to fix some of your capital problems. Now, I hope you hire more firefighters. I hope you get paid more. I hope it makes your life better generally. But you are in the process of a study. I have not seen the results of the study. I know I participated in it at a very small degree. But when we get that study back, they're going to have a whole layout of where the fire station should be and what they should look like, and hopefully we'll be able to bundle that and get you guys fixed up the way you need to be. We want that, just like we want the same thing for the police. It's been pointed out to us, magnified, that there are some problems with our facilities. So wouldn't it be nice if we could get everybody up and running for the next few decades? We sure would like to do that. And if we can get some of those projects done before the World Cup, that too will improve us. On top of that, Representative Cleaver just secured $3 million for the square. And this is a wonderful amount of money that will improve the quality and the conditions on the square, which is absolutely a centerpiece for this town. So I think there's a lot of hope to be had. I think we're moving in the right direction, and I am, for one, looking forward to what we can do as a council. I appreciate everybody's hard work.
I just want to say thank you for everyone attending tonight. And on Saturday, I went to probably a small event that most people wouldn't know about, but it was the Independent Samoan Flag Day, and it is this Samoan community coming together who live in independence to recognize that they belong to the United States. That's their kind of their independence, and I have never been more welcomed or honored by a group ever. And they just did an extraordinary job welcoming me there, and I just wanted to say thank you publicly to them. Santa Caligan, in my opinion, was an excellent event, a great rebound from the pandemic, and I thought they did a great job there. And also, again, I want to commend the committee for their work. That's what I love to see, is people working together. Yes, do we have differences? Absolutely. Can conversations become spirited? Yes. Do I think they need to be spirited? You bet. Can we be polite and productive? Absolutely. And that's what I want to see from this city going forward. That's what my goal is, to make sure that we work together. And if somebody has not heard, I want you to reach out to me. And that is one of the reasons I say we can't manage the secret. And what I mean by that is, when there's something going on in this city, that if you're an employee and you've got a manager that's doing something that you think is probably inappropriate, let us know. If you see something as a citizen that you think should not be happening, let us know. We can't manage those secrets. We can't let them go. And that's why I always end the meetings by saying, we can't manage the secret. And with that, we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.